after you finish the workbook activities, you should have noticed a pattern. Okay, a pattern in those equations that look like y equals 1/2 x plus 1, what each number represents. Okay, and all of those equations that were in the workbook were in what's called slope-intercept form. Okay. Now slope, if you'll remember from the past two entries, is the rate of change. Okay. Y-intercept, okay, this is a definition that you don't have yet. The y-intercept is the point where the line crosses the y-axis. Now I've already filled in my doodle notes for color coding because I thought it would be kind of a boring video to me just to see just me scribbling in. So slope-intercept form, okay, is a formula for the equation of a line using its slope and its y-intercept. Okay. Now I color-coded these so you can see in the equation where they would go. So the slope-intercept formula is one you're going to be very familiar with by the end of this unit. It's y equals mx plus b. Okay, kind of get that in your head and memorize it. Now this y and this x are in black because they won't change. Okay, it's always going to be a y and an x. The numbers are put in for slope and for y-intercept. So you'll see there's an example down here. It says y equals negative 3x plus 2. See how there's a y and there's an x, and then there's two numbers. Now those numbers mean certain things. The coefficient of x, the number that's on the x, is the slope. The number that's by itself, that's the y-intercept. Now, graphing using slope-intercept is so easy. Okay? So easy that you're going to be really mad that your teacher made you graph using a table instead of showing you this really easy method first. Okay. Now first, we want to make sure that our equation is in slope-intercept form. That means it's solved for y. Okay. It's got an m x plus b. Okay. If it's not, we can't use these steps. Okay, we'd have to change the equation around so that it is in slope-intercept form, and then we can use these steps. So the first step here says start by placing a point at the y-intercept. Okay. The y-intercept, if this is y equals mx plus b, right, the y-intercept is 2. That means it crosses the y-axis at positive 2, which is right here. Step 2, from that point, count out the slope okay, but be careful about positive and negative direction. Okay, so our slope is negative 3. Remember, we want slope to be a fraction, so it's negative 3 over 1. So I'm going to use this point, and I'm going to count out my slope to find another point. Alright, so watch this. Negative 3, so I'm going to go down in the negative direction. 1, 2, 3. Positive 1 over 1. There's my new point. I could keep doing it too. I could go down another 3. 1, 2, 3 over 1. Alright, I could keep doing it. I could go up +3 and then left -1 and use my negative there. And I've got these points. Now that I have those points, all I have to do is connect, okay, the points using any straight edge that you have available. I've got a ruler. I've got my points. They all make a line. I make arrows at the ends because I know my line does not stop. And there you go. So I didn't have to make an XY table, right? I didn't have to put in -0 and positive number to see how it looks on each side of the graph. I can just count. I place the y-intercept and I just use my slope to count. Okay? The biggest, really the hardest part about doing this is making sure that it's in slope-intercept form first. Okay, so that you can use this easy method. And if you turn this page over, there's going to be some problems where we have to do that first. If you turn your page over, you'll see that we have some practice problems for using slope-intercept form. Now I'm not going to doodle and color this one in like I did the front page, because that's really the notes section, so those things pop out at you for what to do. These are going to be practice problems, so you're going to follow along with me. Okay. For these two, we're asked to write an equation for each line in slope-intercept form. Okay. So slope-intercept form is y equals m, but instead of m, I'm going to put a box with a little m underneath. X plus, and instead of b, I'm going to put another box with a b underneath. Y equals mx plus b. And when you're asked to write an equation in slope-intercept form, all you're doing is finding the slope of the line, finding the y-intercept of the line, and filling in these boxes. So let's take a look at this one. First, let's find the slope. So remember my counting, if I go down, it's a negative direction. So I'm going to go down 1, 2, -2. Okay. Now to the right is a positive direction. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Positive 6. So my slope for this line is -2/6. And if I reduce that, they're both even. So I know 2 goes into both. That gives me -1/3. Now my y-intercept, that one's pretty easy. It's wherever it crosses the y-axis. It crosses it right there. And what value is it? Well, these aren't numbered. Okay, normally we'd want them to be numbered. So we're going to assume, since they're not numbered, that each value is 1. So this is -1. 0 on x, -1 on y. So the equation in slope-intercept form is y equals m x plus b. Y equals -1/3 x minus 1. Okay. It's that easy. You're just counting the slope, finding this value where it crosses the y-axis, and putting it into our slope-intercept form. So I want you to pause the video and you can try doing this one. When you come back, we'll both do it together. Welcome back. So we're asked to put this in slope-intercept form. I have my line here. First step, I'm going to find the slope. Then I'm going to find the y-intercept. Now I'm going to switch up finding the slope a little bit, because this box that I'm going to write my answer in is over here. I'm actually going to do my run first is +1. And my rise 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, +6. So my slope for this one is going to be 6 over 1. Remember, it's still rise over run, even though I found this number first. So that is 6 over 1, which is just 6. And my y-intercept occurs right here, the point 0, -1 to -3. So your answer should have been y equals a +6x -3. So moving down a bit, you'll see that now we're asked to graph each line given, okay, y equals -x + 4, given that slope-intercept form. We did this one in the front, so you should be able to do this one on your own. Just be careful about this slope. It says -x. That's really -1 over 1. Okay, that's really that slope. So I'll let you pause the video. You can work on that one. When you come back, I'm not going to go over the answer, but you'll see what the answer is. Alright, welcome back. That's the line you should have gotten with a slope of -1 over 1 and a y-intercept of +4. But looking at this one, we're asked to graph y + 1 equals 1/4 x. Now notice how this looks different than this one, okay, than any of the other ones that we've done. And the reason is because it's not in slope-intercept form yet. Slope-intercept form means we have to get the y by itself and the mx plus b on the other side. So what we're going to do is we're going to set aside this doodle notes handout, and you're going to go into your interactive notebooks just to use some blank space. So why don't you pause the video while you get that ready. So the entry is slope-intercept form, and inside that entry we're going to put example 4. That's the fourth problem that we're doing in that back page. And here's our problem. It's y + 1 equals 1/4 x. Now my goal is to get this down to y equals mx plus b. Now you notice I already have an m, so that's nice. Right? But I have to move this 1. To move that to the other side, I am going to subtract 1 from both sides. And I'm going to write that off to the side here because I can't take the 1 away from 1/4 of an x. So those are going to cancel, and I've got y equals 1/4 x minus 1, where my slope is 1/4 and my y-intercept is -1. And you're going to take that information back with you, back to this problem on your doodle notes. Okay. And you're going to graph that equation with a y-intercept of -1 and a slope of 1/4. And I'll pause the video while you do that. And that should be your answer right there. We've got a line through -1 as the y-intercept and a slope of +1/4, up 1 over 4. Now we've got some special cases for slope-intercept form that I want to go over. The first one is the equation y equals 2x. Now this is technically in slope-intercept form. There's no b. This really looks like y equals mx plus nothing, right? So what this really is y equals 2x plus 0, okay, where the y-intercept is 0. Actually, I want you to do that in red, or whatever color you've been using for the y-intercept. Okay. So y-intercept is 0. That means that it's going to start at the origin. Okay. The other case is if you have a problem like y equals 4. Well, this is technically in slope-intercept form again, but really, this is the line y equals 0x plus 4, where the slope is 0. And if you remember about slopes that are 0, those are horizontal lines through, this one would be 4, right? Slope of 0, the skier doesn't go up or down. Joe, when he walks to the right, doesn't go up or down. Okay. This extra work one, okay, 3y plus 5 equals 6x, you're going to put this problem into slope-intercept form. Okay. So now when you see a problem like this, you can go back to this page and it'll say put into slope-intercept form first. If you see a problem like y equals 4, you go back to your notes and say, oh, this just means the slope is 0, but the y-intercept is still 4. Right, so it would go through here as a horizontal line. And y equals 2x. Well, that just means that the y-intercept is 0. So it starts here with a slope of 2, up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1, down 2, left 1, down 2, left 1. Okay. For these last 4 problems, A, B, C, and D, you're going to do these individually. Okay. Now, the work you're going to show is probably going to end up being on the left side of this entry because there's not a lot of space in here. But notice A and B, okay, you're asked just to identify the slope and the y-intercept. But these are not in slope-intercept form, so you've got some work to do here to make them look like y equals mx plus b. Right? These two, where you have some points and some points, what I would do for these ones is I would actually plot these points on a coordinate plane, graph the line, and then it becomes a problem like this, where I have a line, I've got points, and I'm just asked to find the slope and the y-intercept. That's probably the easiest way to do those two. There's a shortcut to this one. Okay, if you find it, let me know. Okay, and when you're done with these 4, please check with your teacher, and you can move on to the practice problems. Now you might be asking yourself, how am I going to put this in my book? So you see we have a handout that's 2-sided, and we also have some notes written down. So what we're going to do is, instead of taping this along all the edges, so it like sticks right there on the page, we're going to tape it like a book. So you're going to put a piece of tape here, a piece of tape here, okay. And what that'll do is it'll allow you to flip this up, okay. But this won't come undone. And you'll be able to see the example over here. And flip it back, you can still see the back side of the notes. It becomes like a page within a page. If you need help, please just ask your teacher. They'll know what to do.